is a show about emotionally repressed white people living in 1960s Manhattan. It is also a show about people who try desperately to create truth, true emotions included, through their words. This type of fabrication is essential to the success of Donald Draper, creative director of a Madison Avenue ad agency.
Happiness is the smell of a new car. It's freedom from fear. It's a billboard on the side of the road that screams with reassurance that whatever you're doing, it's okay. You are okay.
If a reader believes the emotions a story's characters feel, they're well on their way to believing the story itself. Therefore, it's imperative to render characters' emotions and experiences in a way that feels immersive to the reader. The old adage of showing over telling.
You have to get me in a room so I can look them in the eye. The timbre of my voice is as important as the content. I don't know whether I'll be forceful or submissive, but I must be there in the flesh.
Check out how Peggy pitches prospective client Burger Chef. As you'll see, advertising operates on a similar principle of immersing the audience in emotion.
And we can have the connection that we're hungry for. There may be chaos at home, but there's family supper at Burger Chef.
That's beautiful.
That's nice to hear, because that's the name of the spot.
Prose can create feeling through multiple techniques, including use of the active voice, prose rhythm, and use of significant detail, which we'll hear more about later. All of these methods help to immerse the reader in your character's emotions, granting them free feelings. That is, emotional experiences they don't have to play out in their own lives, as Kirk Van Houten sings about here.
Can I borrow a feeling? Could you lend me a jar of love? Hurting hearts need some healing. Take my hand with your glove of love.
Put your product in there as a kind of calamine.
Here, Don invites Kodak representatives
We also
into his
talk
own
about
family memories in
a
hopes
deeper
of evoking
bond
emotion
with the
in both
product.
them and the masses.
Nostalgia. It's delicate, but potent. Sweetheart.
The concept of the carousel ad is one of free feelings. Through the sentimentalism, a certain longing is instilled in the viewer. Similarly, with fiction that successfully shows or embodies characters' emotions
told me
instead
that
of
in
telling
Greek,
about them, the
nostalgia
reader is better
literally
equipped to
means
truly grasp the idea
pain
of the
from an
character,
old wound.
action, or meaning behind the emotional revelation at hand.
It's a twinge in your heart, far more powerful than memory alone. This device isn't a spaceship. It's a time machine. It goes backwards and forwards. It takes us to a place where we ache to go again.
While the carousel pitch gives the people watching Don's presentation free feelings, the scene also involves the madman viewer in Don's sublimated emotions, namely of regret and possibly failure, since he knows the images of a hegemonic bliss he's using to win the business are based on a pack of lies, his.
A child travels. Round and around, and back home again. To a place where we know we are loved.
Through the sensory anchors of the photos, the clicking of the projector, reminiscent of a ticking clock, and the poignant background music, we're grounded in this emotional moment as we listen to Don's words. All of these details of the scene are rooted in the senses, which is the requisite for a concrete detail. What takes a detail one step further into significance is the presence of an authorial judgment or idea. Here, Don corrects hotel mogul Conrad Hilton's use of detail.
Well, here I am. What can I do for you?
What do you think?
Hilton's significant detail of the mouse doesn't line up with the idea he wants to express, namely that Hilton hotels are your sanitary go-to for a home away from home.
I don't think anybody wants to think about a mouse in a hotel.
Make sure that whatever your details show line up with how you'd explain the ideas, characterization, or meaning that they're attached to. Oh, and make sure your details are saying something, period, as opposed to being non-specific, irrelevant fluff.
Well, that was my idea.
While finding the detail, or mascot, juiced can be challenging, it's definitely worth the investment. Otherwise, we end up relying on details that are recitative, particularly about the setting or a character's appearance, overly general, or abstract. On that note, we should also be aware of how active our language is. Since linking verbs emphasize passivity as opposed to agency, deploy them very selectively. Compare Pete's presentation of some exciting agency news to Don's.
We've been included in an elite group of agencies invited to pitch Jaguar cars. So, congratulations.
Pete's delivery gets the message across, but the activeness of Don's words here actually rallies the staff and partners both.
I'd like to say something.
Would you?
Last year at this time, whether you knew it or not, the survival of this company was on the line. And I look at the faces in this room who have given their all to this tenuous recovery, and I say, prepare to take a great leap forward. Prepare to swim the English Channel and then drown in champagne. There are 6 weekends between now and the pitch. We are going to spend them all here. We will celebrate Christmas here. We will ring in the new year together. And in the end, we will represent Jaguar, and it will be worth it. Every agency on Madison Avenue is defined by the moment they got their car. When we land Jaguar, the world will know we've arrived.
The rule of the active and specific over the passive and abstract is particularly true of writing about a character's feelings. As mentioned, a reader is far more likely to buy into such feelings if they are allowed to participate in them instead of being told about them. How do you show feeling? Through, you guessed it, significant details, as well as through tight control of the language and characters' physical reactions. Notice that the rhythm of Kenny Cosgrove's speed-fueled dance rant reflects the anxiety he feels about his major client.
It's my job to take them to dinner at 80 miles an hour. It's my job to stop them out from the restaurant so they can have 5 pounds of crab legs and 3 bottles of beer apiece and then go get prime rib. It's my job to go hunting so they can fire off their guns an inch from my ear and laugh when I get startled because it's my job.
As someone who harbors some pretty heavy-duty secrets, Don is under psychological pressure essentially all the time. With few friends he can turn to with candor, his emotions often come out like this. Whether he's upset about losing a client, upset that his latest mistress has broken up with him, or upset that he's no longer top dog at the agency, Don's explosive physical reactions express his feelings more vividly than an abstract label would. The same is true here, where Don's embrace of his wife Megan immerses us in his urgent need for her forgiveness. Don does try journaling about his feelings for a while, but is later annoyed by the evidence of his soul-searching during a late-night surge of inspiration. Now he feels desperate to save the endangered agency, and so decides to pull a rhetorical stunt in the New York Times. When he rips out his pages of journaling, we know that he no longer feels the introspection of a few episodes prior. The ripping, therefore, is an example of a significant detail, as well as a characterizing gesture.
Why I'm quitting tobacco. Recently, my advertising agency realized, and here was my chance to be someone who can sleep at night.
Don's letter, which takes a public and phony moral stance against the tobacco company which had been the agency's bread and butter until recently, runs in the next morning's paper.
If you're interested in cigarette work, here's a list of agencies that do it well. BBDO, Leo Burnett, McCann Erickson.
Through this gambit, the viewer is involved in Don's intense loyalty to the firm, as well as the recklessness that impels him to act rashly, without the other partner's knowledge.
Somebody used your name to end our business in the newspaper.
No, dear.
It's not you, is it?
Bill Jolie wants us to tell them what we think about
Here, we don't need to be told that Peggy feels alienated from the rest of the secretaries, who are being used for in-house market research for a new client. The way this scene is executed helps bring the viewer into Peggy's emotion with her, so we feel them much more clearly than if she just told another character, for example, that the product test made her feel unhappy and strange. Such abstract labeling just doesn't have the impact of an emotion conveyed through the senses in the body. Likewise, in this scene, which takes place about 1 decade later, we don't need to be told that Peggy feels confident. The significant detail of the racy painting she carries, which has been a fixture in the show since season 2, her strut, and her cool as a cucumber expression even as people turn in their tracks to look at her, involves the viewer in her self-assurance. Let's take another look at Sad Sack Pete. This episode kicks off with him lying awake, tortured by thoughts of a high school student he met in driver's ed class. As he lies there, he's bothered by the dripping of the broken kitchen faucet. Although he thinks he manages to fix it, it ends up bursting during a dinner party for his colleagues. Don repairs the faucet 1, 2, 3, impressing the men and setting the women aflutter. Then, Pete picks a fight with another partner at work, only to be soundly beaten. At the end of the episode, Pete's back in driver's ed, watching the girl he tried to pick up get intimate with a stud from the football team. When we once again hear the superimposed dripping of the damn faucet, this time implicitly in Pete's imagination, the sensory trigger lets us know that he's feeling defeated and demoralized, emasculated by what he perceives as the more appealing male specimens that surround him.
I have nothing done.
When we take a step back from Pete's self-pity and look at the privilege and abundance of his life, we might disagree with this claim. But this episode is inviting us to participate in his feelings with him, regardless of whether we approve of the feelings or of Pete himself. When we're guided by the significant anchor of the dripping faucet, we're much more likely to comprehend and care about Pete's emotions, even if our impression of him is complex. In fact, if you depend on abstraction to relate emotional crises or catharses, you may find your reader reading over the feelings altogether, as in,
It will shock you how much it never happened.
One last note. Nothing breaks the illusion of readerly immersion quicker than faulty
I
mechanics.
hope you know that covering your typewriter's office code for I'm done for the day. I'm not feeling so swell.
Neither am I. Look at these letters you typed after lunch. Terre Haute, Indiana has 2 R's, and an A, and an E at the end. I think either you missed home row by a hand or you were out drinking with the junior account boys again.
I wasn't drinking.
I don't like your tone.
I'll read you these right away.
So proofread carefully, or risk getting yelled at by Joan. Unless, that's what you're into.
People out there can understand. I'm giving him something he can feel. Ooh, to let him know this love is real.
How about it, Luann? Will you marry me? Again?
Ooh, no.
Oh, well, can I have my shirts back at least?
Okay, you heard the lady. Why don't you take it outside, all right?